The Varela outpost had the stale odor of burnt coolant mixed with regret, a scent Dalen Cole immediately noticed as he dragged his duffel bag off the transport freighter. The docking bay was poorly lit, the metallic walls groaning as if the station itself had grown tired of existing. For a place supposedly housing nearly 50 personnel, it felt eerily empty, haunted even. Dalen had been reassigned here after a disagreement with his previous commander, which may or may not have included tampering with the officer's bathroom gravity controls. The official report called it insubordination. Dalen preferred to call it creative protest. Now, as he shuffled through dim corridors lined with flickering lights, he wondered if this desolate posting was the punishment he deserved, or just the universe's bad joke. Then he heard it. A faint, dissonant hum, sharp like glass vibrating. He followed the sound to the edge of the observation dome, and there she was. A tall figure, draped in a cloak that shimmered faintly like nebula dust. Her long hair shifting colors between lavender and silver under the weak lights. But what drew his gaze wasn't her clothing, nor her otherworldly grace. It was her ears. Long and curved, elegant crescents of obsidian flesh, unlike anything human. Alien. Her presence was still, watchful, with an aura that seemed to bend the space around her. When she finally turned and caught him staring, Dalen fumbled for words. Hey, I'm new here, just transferred in. And you're clearly not a vending machine. Smooth, her wide, unblinking eyes fixed on him. He nervously dug into his pack, pulling out half a synth cheese sandwich. Look, I don't know what you eat, but this is the least toxic thing I've got. Peace offering. She didn't take it. Instead, she regarded the sandwich like it had personally insulted her lineage. Dalen chuckled awkwardly, lowering it. At least she hadn't walked away. He tried again. Okay, new theory. You're not a ghost. You're the station's mystery. Her head tilted slightly. Then, finally, she spoke. Human. Her voice was melodic, each vowel bending strangely, almost like light refracting. Dalen straightened. That's me. Human. Coffee addict. Questionable judgment. And you are? She said nothing more, turning back toward the stars beyond the dome. As he left, he thought he heard a faint sound behind him, a tiny breath of amusement. Later, when he asked the crew about her, the reactions were evasive. Some claimed ignorance, others whispered, "Not dangerous, but not one of us. Don't get involved." They called her names, hinted at exile, and warned him to stay away. But Dalen couldn't shake the image of her, standing utterly still, staring at the infinite night with a loneliness deeper than space itself. It wasn't her ears that haunted him. Not really. It was her silence. Not empty, but waiting. And Dalen, against all his better instincts, had never been able to leave a silence unfilled. The next morning, he returned to the dome, armed not with a sandwich, but a steaming mug of coffee and a reckless grin. The next morning, Dalen walked into the observation dome carrying 2 mugs of steaming coffee. The alien woman was there again, her cloak trailing against the metal floor as though it floated on an invisible current. She did not acknowledge him immediately, but he set one mug gently on the railing a few feet from her. "No cheese sandwiches today," he said casually. "But coffee? Now this is diplomacy." She finally turned her gaze toward the mug, then to him. "Bitter," she said simply. Her voice lingered in the air, soft yet commanding, like a note from an instrument no human had built. Dalen grinned. "Exactly. The bitterness is the charm. Life's not sweet, might as well drink it honest." He sipped, trying not to notice how her eyes studied him. Not with distrust, but with an intensity that left him oddly unsettled. Days became weeks, and their encounters turned into routine. Dalen never pushed too hard, just filled the silence with stories. How he once crash-landed a hoverbike into a noodle stand, how his grandmother swore by space-grown basil, how he got reassigned here for pranking the wrong superior. She rarely responded, but when she did, her words were precise, stripped of excess. One evening, as the station rotated toward the brighter stretch of nebula, Dalen finally asked her name. There was a pause before she answered, "Soren." He repeated it softly. Soren. Suits you. Sounds like stars colliding. She didn't smile, but her head tilted in that way he had learned meant she was listening, considering him. As their strange friendship grew, Dalen started to notice the way others avoided her. Crew members shifted hallways when she appeared. Conversations died when she entered a room. Whispers followed. Exile hybrid. Curse. Dalen confronted one technician about it, only to be warned. She's not supposed to be here. She's a reminder. Best to keep your distance, Cole. But Dalen hated keeping distance. And besides, Soren had started asking him questions. Unexpected, piercing ones. One night, she asked, Human, why do you speak to me? He chuckled. Because you're here. Because you listen. Because silence makes me itch. She tilted her head again. Others avoid. They avert their eyes. Yeah, Dalen admitted, looking at her. That's their loss. The silence stretched long after, broken only by the hum of the station's aging systems. Then she whispered something that caught him off guard. Why do you find me beautiful, human? Dalen blinked. He hadn't said the word aloud, but maybe it was written on his face. Maybe she had read it in the way he lingered by the dome each morning. He took a slow sip of coffee, stalling. Because you are. Not in spite of what makes you different, but because of it. Ears, cloak, silence, everything. You're unforgettable. For the first time, he thought he saw the corner of her mouth lift, the barest flicker of a smile, quickly gone, like a star winking out. And just like that, Dalen knew he was already too far gone to walk away. After that night, something shifted. Soren didn't retreat into silence as often. She began asking Dalen more questions about Earth, about human customs, about why he laughed even when things seemed bleak. She was endlessly curious, though her voice carried the weight of someone who had been silenced for too long. One evening, as they sat side by side in the observation dome, she asked, What is a joke? Dalen nearly spit out his coffee. You've never heard a joke? Her eyes blinked slowly. I know the word, not the shape of it. So he tried. He told her about the one where a freighter pilot mistook a maintenance bot for a customs officer and offered it bribes. Soren listened intently, her expression unchanging. After a pause, she said softly, That is absurd. Exactly. Dalen laughed. That's the point. Absurdity is funny. She tilted her head. Then, You are absurd, human Dalen. He pretended to clutch his chest. Ouch. My first alien insult. Historic moment. To his surprise, a soft sound escaped her. Half laugh, half sigh. It was the first time he had heard joy in her voice, and it struck him harder than any insult ever could. But outside their private world, tension grew. Dalen noticed the crew watching him differently now, whispering when he entered rooms. In the mess hall, a colleague muttered under his breath, Lovesick fool. Doesn't know what she is. Dalen slammed his tray down, but before he could respond, Soren appeared silently at his side. Her calm presence was enough to silence the insult. Still, he saw the way the other's eyes lingered on her, sharp with suspicion and prejudice. One night, Dalen asked directly, Why do they hate you, Soren? Her cloak rustled as she shifted. I am not pure. My mother, human. My father, not. Their worlds were enemies. When war ended, neither side claimed me. Exile is my inheritance. The honesty in her voice cut him deeper than any accusation. He realized she carried loneliness like armor, and every cold glance from the crew only reinforced it. Then they're idiots, Dalen said firmly. You're not Exile. You're Soren, and you're more than they'll ever understand. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she turned her gaze to him and whispered, You are not afraid. Of you. Dalen smirked. Please, you drink my coffee. That makes us practically family. This time her smile was real, faint but lasting. But as their bond deepened, the hostility around them sharpened. Whispers of protocol violation and unauthorized contact grew louder. Dalen found a warning notice slipped under his cabin door. Stay away from the alien. He crumpled it and tossed it aside. If the universe wanted to test his stubbornness, it had chosen the wrong man. Because Dalen Cole had already made up his mind. Whatever she was, wherever she came from, he wasn't leaving her to face the void alone. The warnings didn't stop. Some came as unsigned notes, others as quiet threats from fellow crew members who claimed they were just looking out for him. Dalen brushed them off with the same sarcasm he used for everything. But inside, he knew the situation was turning dangerous. The turning point came during a systems malfunction in the reactor bay. A coolant leak triggered alarms across the outpost, and the crew scrambled in panic. Dalen rushed to help, but the moment he entered the bay, he saw Soren already there, hands glowing faintly as she manipulated the failing systems with a strange, graceful precision. The crew froze. One engineer hissed, "She's not supposed to touch the systems." But Dalen could see what the others couldn't. She wasn't breaking the machinery, she was saving it. The leak slowed, the alarms quieted, and the reactor stabilized under her steady guidance. When it was over, instead of gratitude, the room filled with suspicion. Patricia, the operations officer, barked. She interfered with restricted tech. "That's a violation," Dalen snapped. "A violation? She just saved your station from blowing us into stardust. You're alive because of her." But the prejudice was stronger than reason. A tribunal was scheduled. Soren was to be questioned, her presence reconsidered. To many, she was still an exile, a hybrid who didn't belong. On the night before the hearing, Dalen found her in the dome again, staring at the stars. Her cloak shimmered faintly, her expression unreadable. "They will send me away," she said quietly. "Not if I can help it," Dalen replied, sitting beside her. She turned, her dark eyes searching his. "Why risk this, human? Why fight for me?" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Because when I look at you, I don't see exile. I don't see hybrid. I see Soren, and you're the most extraordinary thing I've ever known. If they can't see that, then screw them." Her voice softened to a whisper. "And if I leave, then I'll go with you." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was cool, her touch tentative, but in that brief contact was more honesty than words could carry. At the hearing the next day, Dalen stood before the tribunal. He spoke fiercely, recounting how Soren had saved the station, how she had been targeted not for her actions but for her heritage. "You call her a risk," he said, "but the only risk here is losing someone who deserves more than exile." His words echoed in the chamber. Some remained unmoved, but enough listened. The tribunal didn't expel her. Instead, they placed restrictions, limited her access. It wasn't perfect justice, but it wasn't banishment either. Later, in the dome, Dalen handed her a fresh mug of coffee. "Bitter?" she remarked again, but this time her smile was undeniable. For Dalen, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about choosing to see beauty where others saw danger, to stand beside someone the universe had tried to erase. And in that silent dome, with stars stretching endlessly before them, he knew he had chosen right.